외국에서 먼저 들어오는 참가자들 한 60명, 70명 정도 되는 것 같아요. 그래서 네임택하고 펜하고 모자하고 대리 선생님, 사모님이세요. 백하고 모자 이렇게 준비되어 있습니다. 정말 많은 분이 많이 안면이 있는 사람들이에요. 이쪽에 이게 대리 선생님 둘째 아들, 또 저쪽에 피터 시니어 선수. 이렇게 스튜디오가 이런 식으로 5개 부스가 있고, 오늘 강의할 때 학생들 여기 앉아서 시청하게 됩니다. 오늘 모든 게 오늘 모든 게 이 게리 에이전시로부터 비롯돼서 많은 선수들, 코치들 이 자리가 만들어졌습니다. 게리 에이전시를 위한 자리이기도 합니다.
20 years later, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So all the friends, all the players, all the coaches. Jan's here, Gavin, Pete, they're all here. It's a great day.
I've got my own thing. This thing on my head here is like an upside down halo at the moment. I came down when they opened this place 3 years ago now. Yeah. And when I walked in here, I had to apologise to all the people for my place that's a bit like this, except -10. I had to apologise for the poor man's version of this. But I think Brad came to my place a lot with some people and brought a lot of people up all the time. And then this sprouted out. It's just the most unbelievable place. But I'm really proud too of Brad, because Brad as a player he was an exceptional player. He won the Vic Open, he won the Australian Amateur, and he could play golf. And he decided to do some stuff, and to be honest, I think I said at the opening, I thought, players are pretty selfish. They've got to be selfish to get out there on the tour and make money out of these guys. Know Marty Doyle's here, and the other pros that are here. You know how tough you've got to be to survive out there and make your own way. But I never thought I didn't think Brad would be a coach. I've told him that before. But he was so good, and he's so great now. And one of the biggest pleasures I get is seeing guys that are coaches that I've had some influence with. And even Peter Senior now, that was never a coach, but he probably in a tournament would tell people to swing a bit slower or put their ball back. But now Peter Senior knows all about the golf swing, and he can actually fix people up on the golf course in the Pro-Am now. I think that'd be right to say, Pete?
For 5 minutes. And
No. So I'll just I want to touch a bit more on the personal side with these people here that are unbelievable. But my wife always says to me, look, you've got to explain what the right-sided swing is. And I go, well, everybody knows. These people here all know what it actually is. And but people call it the right-handed swing and the left-sided mistake and all that sort of thing, or the end of the wind swing. I started teaching when I was about 17, and I was playing off scratch when I was 15, and I was playing off 10 when I was 18, because I had these lessons from people who didn't have a clue what they were talking about, and their eyes were painted on. So anyway, I went on a search to fix my own game, and I'm still on that search. So the great thing about the game is that for someone like me who was 82, and when I hit it over the hill at the 9th hole at the Grand, they all say, you've hit over the hill. I said, I've been over the hill for a long time. And but it gradually evolved into other coaches being interested, and me. I had a few players on the tour, and it's just been a lifetime of not working. Basically, it's been a great thing. But the good thing about it, pretty much to me, is that I've never changed it. From what I thought I should do when I watched Hogan, and I used to watch Mr. Hogan, I used to watch Peter Thompson, I used to watch Kel Nagle was my favourite too, and I watched them a lot in the early days, and I formed the opinion of what the proper angles in the golf swing should be and what proper setup should be. And I've always stuck with that. The only changes I've ever made have been because of my two boys and the guys that I've worked with, Luke and Ben. We always keep an eye on each other and make sure that we're all doing it right. And I've put a few things in that those boys have taught me over the years, and very proud of them too. And Jason and all the other guys that I've worked with. But getting back to the right-sided swing, it's basically, to me, only something that I know that I can fix people with, and I can fix people of all shapes and sizes. Not looking at you, Ron. All shapes and sizes and heights, and I feel that there's a lot of stuff that's coaching even today is not for everybody, and they can't do it physically, and it hurts their bodies. And people with things on their elbows, and they've got bad backs. We try to protect bodies. And with the coaching now, it's a lot more into working physically to gain more speed, to gain more distance, and to get stronger, and the gyms and everything. That's all come in. In the old days, like when Peter first started, not the old days, but when Peter was playing, there weren't any sports psychs, there weren't any physios, there weren't any people related to golf that helped pros out, were there? So, people say, well, how come he didn't have a psych? How come Norman never had a psych? That. But now we've got psychologists, and but the physical side of it has worked in with Brad's really well, and I try to do it in my place. And the guys that I play with at the Grand, they're up here somewhere, they're over there, 3 guys, there's 3 stooges over there at the back. And I'm going to try and get a couple of their money this week at the National. But I'm always big on trying to get them to do stuff with their physicals to help their golf swings, because you really got to train your body to operate, particularly under pressure. And if you just got the mind stuff and the thoughts about swings and what you've got to do with the golf swing, and you don't do the exercises. So in here, Brad's got he's got the gym upstairs, he's got the stringy things, and he can... the stringy things, and they were pretty stringy when I had them. Anyway, he can take someone who's having a lesson down here who needs to help a bit and take him up there and make him do that stuff, which enhances that. Peter Senior now, you might have noticed, is stripped right off. He's been going to the gym. He used to go to the gym, but it was JIM. It's now GYM. And he was in the shop the other day having a bit of tune-up, and we were having a coffee. And he's got the 7-iron going 170, 170 metres, and I'm going, have you got new clubs? No, what have you done? He's been working out. Pete said the other day he probably hits his 7-iron further now than he did when he was playing, when he's winning tournaments around the world. So when I look around the room, there's a few people who are sort of getting along a little bit with me. And if you don't keep doing a little bit with your bodies and working out and doing the stuff, you're just going to keep losing distance. And then, as Pete says, when you hit your driver, you'll be able to hear it land. You used to say that. That sort of part of the game has changed a lot in terms of what the modern players are doing. But if you want to get better, you have to understand what you're doing. So this is what Brad and these guys do now. Sang Lee's here from Korea. Welcome, Sang. They're making sure that people go away understanding what they're doing and how they've got to work at it, because they don't work at it, they're not going to do it. So all of my coaches, I'm very happy to say, around the world, we've got quite a lot. They're not what we call smoke and mirrors, band-aids, high fives, that's fine, you're doing good, you're really hitting it well. They're more into educating people about what they have to do themselves. So if you're not in control of your own destiny with the coaching, if you go away, I remember when I used to make people models, right? So I made Peter a model when we had him swinging really well And I said to Peter, has anyone ever you got a model? He said, oh, Jean's pretty good, but I don't know whether she's a model. But I said, no, we're going to make you a thing that you have to look at all the time and be able to walk in and say, oh, geez, I'm doing that again. So when Pete comes in now to my shop, I don't know how old the model is now. It's 20, is it?
1997.
1997, right? So I made him a model in that early period. It's still there on my video. And when he comes in the shop, it's up there. And he'll walk in and he'll go, have a coffee, and he'll go, geez, I'm stalling going back again. Too wide. Got to get narrow. I got that look with the club head like that. It should be like that. He knows now. And that's just what I'm saying to the average player. No one's ever got better by someone telling them what to do. So you really need, when you're being coached, you need the visuals, you need the numbers, you need the bit of stuff to do on the exercises, and you need to know yourself and have a model of what you're doing and work towards it. And everybody wants to get there quickly. Gavin Coles, when I first started working with him, I was working with a lot of other players and I didn't have time for this little guy from Bathurst, never heard of. And he pestered the daylights out of me. And finally got together with him, and he was really in search of getting better. And we did some stuff, changed some angles, same old stuff I've done all the time. Got his takeaway right, because the first bit is the main bit. If you don't get the first bit of your swing right, you forget the rest. People working on their things up here, it all happens down here. Mr. Hogan said, first 2 feet. Colsey spent 3 months just doing that, and he still does it today. And he got on the US Tour and he won 5 nationwide tournaments. Unbelievable. And probably is one of the best exponents of the right-sided and angularly that we've got. So on the coaching side, the right-sided thing, we named it because one day I went on a show in America. It was called the Golf Channel, and there were about 10 million viewers. And they got this guy from Australia they thought couldn't put 2 words together. And they said, what do you call this thing? Is it Chili's? Is it, Friday? Thank God it's Fridays. It's got to have over there you've got to have a franchise, right? And I just said, I thought, Bondi Beach, Nervo Chatterini, no, that's too long. What about the right-sided swing? The right-sided swing. So we went on and did this thing on the TV and talked about the right-sided swing that none of us ever knew anything about. But as it turned out, it was the right thing, because all it means is that we hit with this side because this side is strong. So all of our players have a strong left side, turn their rights and hit back against their left. They don't move their lefts down or under or around. Jan will tell you that. So that's pretty much it. But what you're going to see tonight, you'll see some of these guys hit some shots, and you've got a lot of golf pros in here that can really play. And I won't be hitting it in because I've got this thing on my head. So I'd just like to mention that we've got this Hall of Famer here. Senior won 3 tournaments after he was 50 or 52 or something. Australian Opens and PGAs, which is unbelievable. Gavin Coles already talked about, but Jan, when she went to America, she was a trailblazer for Australia, we all know that. And here it is, all these years later. I played golf with her when she was 16. And she played with a lady called Diana Cross, her later name was Diana Thomas. Has anyone ever heard of Diana Thomas? Well, there you go. Look up your history. She won the Australian Open, she won the Foursomes Championship with her, and no one's ever heard of her since. She was going to America to trailblaze, and this one went on her own from the Central Coast. And it's just so beautiful to have you here. She's part of our family. Sam up there, he's a right-sided man, and he's a great coach, and he's doing really well. And that's what I get the pleasure out of seeing the coaches that are really doing well, because it's nice to have some sort of an input into the game. We all love the game. So, anybody got any questions about the right-sided swing except you, Kath? I know that a lot of you have had the right-sided swing going for a long time now. You've all seen Monty Python. You know about the Holy Grail, right?
Can I, was this working? Hello? Hello.
Yep.
Colsey. I want to start with Colsey. I think you're like probably the best story just about. You came over here maybe a couple of years ago to do some coaching. And obviously, being in the game for a long time, you watch people hit, and some people make it look hard, some people make it look easy. Colsey makes it look easy, and he can hit. What impresses me about Colsey, he can hit it harder and faster and faster and harder and without losing form. And that, how do you do that, Gav? What's the structure that you've done that Gaz talks about? You know what I'm talking about. What do you do, and what have you done? 3 or 4 things that keeps you doing the same thing for like 30, 40 years.
I suppose it's I've practiced for 5 years. I practiced for 5 years with a mirror, and all I worked on basically every day was to make sure my posture was right before I even started. And I suppose that's why my angles stayed the same. And then I basically had 3 things where I put a shaft down under my hand line. I'd get the clock feel open to me because I'm always shut. And then I'd try and void it out because I always had too much. And then I'd hit against the back left knee, but to me that felt like I came over it at the bottom. And that's all I did. That for 30 years and still do it.
Is it something that you understood, or you just did it because you were told to do it?
The grumpy old man, he couldn't talk to me very much, so I just had to do what he told me to do. And when I asked a question, I'd always get an answer, so I just shut up because I didn't want to argue. So yeah, I don't bring up every dinner time.
Arguing, don't we?
So I just did what I was told.
Yeah, that's a pretty important part of it, isn't it? Because I think some of us, when we get lessons and we're working our swing, we might think we're doing the right thing, but it might not feel right. So, I mean, for me, when I'm teaching people, I try and make them understand what they've got to do. Because if they understand, they'll more likely do it. But sometimes you just got to get told and do it. Yeah, and suck it up a bit.
You got to look in the mirror. You got to know what it looks like. You don't know what it looks like. You don't know what it feels like.
Yeah.
You got to do it when you're on your own.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You didn't know about that, what you said?
I don't know what you're talking about. Brad's very kindly asked me to come up here and just ask a few questions, and obviously in between the audience. But I wanted to say, I think before we start, first of all, a massive thank you to Brad and Justine for what you guys have done to be able to create this tournament in the way. It's the first one I've actually played. I just haven't had time.
Yeah, sensational.
And also what you've done with this, I think this would blow most people away in terms of what you've been able to achieve here. And I think anyone that runs a business, particularly in Australia, particularly in Victoria, Gary, knows how difficult it is to try and run a business and pay people on that money. And you guys took that on, and you deserve everything that comes your way. So well done. And lastly, before I ask a question, Gary, I've known you for 20 years. I failed the cranky test miserably when I first met you. Probably like a lot of us, but I was talking about you before, and I think all I wanted to say to you, mate, was you're an incredible person. You have an incredible family. You, Kath, and the boys. And Pete Kravitz, who's not here with us at the moment, but I wanted to say that, mate, whatever my career turns out to be, and I started too late to be anything special, but whatever my career turns out to be, I owe it to you, and I'm sure most people probably feel that way. So the last time I came up on my own, you came out to me at 10:30 at night in your pyjamas to pick me up from the car at the ground and take me back. I don't know of any other coach that would ever do that, or any other person that would ever put that time into their students and look after people the way you and your family have. So
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
I coach out at Heritage, and I took a couple of years off just to have a break from coaching and work at the PGA, and I got the pleasure of speaking to Pete whilst I was at the PGA, and I was building a program for tour players, and Pete, we spoke about it a lot, and you've had an incredible career, but I guess you were someone you said you used to hook it quite badly, like we all seem to hook it up here, but I guess what I want to ask you, you took it from someone who basically won a tournament and then wanted to give it away. And then you met Gary, and then you made the changes, which I think is really incredible. Can you describe to us the process that you went through to be able to, basically you're obviously out of love with your old golf swing and you wanted to do something different, but to then actually take what you did that felt completely foreign and apply it in the heat of the tournament and then go to the level that you went to where you're still winning in your 50s in Australia?
I remember it pretty clearly. From the end of the 80s to the middle of the 90s, I played pretty steady. Probably on the top of my game. I probably had my best years in those at that time. 1997, we were playing at Terry Hills in Cannon Challenge. I played in the last round with Peter Lonard. I got another Lonard story. And, from tee to green, Pete never missed a shot. He didn't putt particularly well on the last day. I went into the tournament one shot in front going into the last day, and I shot 3 over the front line. I double bogeyed the ninth, which was a fairly easy par 5, and I thought that's probably the end of me. I ended up coming home in 5 under, but I didn't know where the ball was going. And we've all had that feeling at some stage on a course where we had no control of if it was going to go left, it was going to go right, and to shoot 5 under for 9 holes. And we did the presentation, and I was sitting near the clubhouse, and Gary came over to congratulate me. And he said, "Well done, Pete." And I said, "Yeah, yes, thanks." And he said, "You don't seem very happy." And I said, "Well, I saw you following us." And I said, "I probably nearly hit you about 6 times." And I said, "I've just lost the love for the game." And I said, "I'm really seriously thinking about giving it away." And he said, "Do you want to fix it?" And I sort of perked up a bit, and I said, "Is there a chance?" And he said, "Meet me at Palm Meadows on Tuesday, 9 o'clock. So at that stage, Gary was at Palm Meadows, and I was there at 9 o'clock, and he took me into the shed there, and he showed me some old stuff of when I used to play pretty well, where he used to go up to up, and then I was going around and around. And then, I was a member at Hope Island, and about 4 or 5 months later, you became the pro at Hope Island.
That's right, yeah.
So I had Gary sitting there, and he had me out the back of the pro shop for a month, not using my legs, just hitting these shots for a whole week. And we had the Aussie Open down at Royal Adelaide coming up in a couple of
You lost that one, Pete.
Yeah, I know, the Elvis.
Elvis, yeah, he used to come back.
Don't worry, the only one with Daz, the only player Daz has a radioactive fire. And we don't bring it out too often. And he said, "Right, Aussie Open," he said, "I want you to do exactly the same thing you've been doing for the last week." And I said, "What, just..."
Give it a bump.
And I said, "I've never hit it so good in all my life." For 72, I finished second,
Yep.
but if I putted half decent, I would have done it right. But, and that sort of got me to believe. I started to understand the golf swing. I never really understood it until I talked to Gaz. And he put it in position, he did all this, and he resurrected my career, and I played pretty good through that section. I didn't play much overseas between 42 to 49. And then I wanted to get on the Champions Tour. So we spent 12 months together, worked on a plan. I went over, I did pretty good in the qualifying. And I ended up winning the qualifying.
You won the qualifying, yeah.
And then, I had 6 years on the tour that I didn't win. Lost a few playoffs.
3 playoffs.
But it was so steady. And, if anybody has got credit for anything that I've done, it's the man to my right. And of course, behind every great man, there's a great woman. And Kat, he wouldn't have found where he was going if it wasn't for you. So, you were his GPS.
I'd be on the park bench.
But it's been fantastic knowing him, and I've got so much time for him.
Thanks, Peter.
Gav, I just wanted to shine a little spotlight back on you again, because we were talking about this before, and quite often tour players when they're playing and they're going through the changes, struggle for a while until all of a sudden one day it clicks. Can you maybe discuss, some people here I'm sure have heard of it, but could you sort of talk to us about how, again, like you took what it was that you were working on and it felt uncomfortable, it felt hard and you couldn't quite trust it, and talk about the moment that you felt like it actually clicked and you grew it as a player?
Well, I think the first time I saw Gary, I said, I'm bloody hopeless. I can't compete with these guys, so I want to get better. And I just kept grinding, week in, week out, grind. Didn't care what it looked like, didn't care what anyone else said. I used to practice with everybody behind me, so I couldn't see what they were doing anyway. And then about 5 years, 6 years after we'd been doing it, we finally did a whole year of just 30 yards in. I think 7-9 might have been the longest got there at one point, and after that it was like perfect. We could just go and play and we didn't have to worry.
Can you think of a time in the tournament where you felt like, you still had some nagging you out in the back of your mind about it and all of a sudden it clicked?
No. It was like the first week. I mean, that was 9 months after I started this, and I had this feel with the left wrist to the sky, and I used to hit one ball every 15 minutes on the range because I wasn't allowed to hit anymore. I had to go and look in the mirror for 15 minutes, and I could hit a ball, and I had to go back because it would go 50 yards to the right, because I was always sharp and not like that. And we go to Windaroo the next week, and I've got to hit it like this without a bounce to the right. And I just sort of went, all right, close your eyes a minute. I went down the fairway, I thought that was pretty good. And the third hole goes a bit like this over the hill, and I remember hitting it on this downslope off the tee, and I went, oh no, this will be a test one. All right, so like this, go down the slope, hit this 3-iron, I just looked at it and went, I don't care what I do for the rest of my life, I'm not leaving that club. That was the best shot I ever had. And I've been nervous since.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thanks, Gav. Well done. Is this on? Hello? Yeah. Jan, thank you again for coming. We're all, very excited for you to be here. I was upstairs before with you on the springies, working on some movement stuff. And you said something about when you started working with Gaz, you went to Leadbetter and you came back to Gaz because you broke your hand and someone would try to rob you or something like that. Could you just tell us a little bit of a history on where you met Gaz and how you come about still working with him?
Yeah, sure. I've known Gaz and Kat for a long time and actually went to their engagement party when I was 16, so I've known them a very long time. I just wish I'd started back then with Gaz and just think how many more tournaments I would have won besides the 42. So, but I was number 1 in 87, so I'm still thinking pretty good around the world. And then I had a couple of bad years with my father dying, and then in 1990 I was ready to start off again the year. Finished the first tournament in Jamaica, and I got mugged in Miami, and they broke my left hand and my fingers, my last 3 fingers of the left hand, and damaged all my tendons, and dislocated my right shoulder. So when we went to the hospital, they said, you probably won't be able to play again. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. I'll play again. So then my coach that I've worked with all those years said, I can't teach you because you can't hold on with the left hand. And I was like, oh. So then I went, I'm going to find a coach that can. So I went to Leadbetter, went to Butch Harmon, went to Rick Smith, and they all went, you can't play. Because I'd already lost 30 meters immediately. And I just didn't know what to do. So, I was struggling and couldn't make a cut. And then I was invited to the first Australian Ladies Masters at Palm Meadows, and they were paying me appearance fees. I'm like, well, I'm going to need the money because I had to go and make the cut. And I flew down, and my mum was in the table with Gary, and she said, remember Gary? I'm like, oh my God, yes. And he said, he's a famous teacher. She said, he's a famous teacher now. And he watched me play the first day in the tournament, and I duck hooked it all the way around and shot 1 under. And I said, can you help me? And he said, yeah, I can get you to work your right side. And I've never heard that before. And it's the first coach that said, of course we can work on this. So I stayed for 3 days with him and worked on it, and there was a par 3 on the back nine. I think it was like 15, I can't remember. And there was a nearest the pin, it was 5,000 for nearest the pin. And it was over water, and it was like a little peninsula hole. And they had the pin stuck in right by the water, so you had to hit a cut to get it. And every woman pro, even today, most of them, hit it right to left. Do they hit some left to rights now? I don't know.
They do now. They didn't then though.
But anyway, and he said, we talked about it, and he said, the pin is in the right, perfect. You're going to hit a cut. And we've been practicing since Thursday to get to cut for this one hole. And when I got up there, Gary said, okay, it's time for you to hit a cut. And I've hit roping hooks for the last year, and I'm like, I'm going to have to do this. And we actually did it. It went up in the middle of the green and dropped to the right, and I won the nearest the pin. And I went, that's it, I'm hooked. So.
It's a long time ago, eh? It's a long time ago. Good memories.
That was a long time ago. In fact, there were some stories, and this is the one thing that's fantastic about Gary, because he'd come over and watch me play. Whenever I'd lose it, he'd say, you've had too many showers, you've lost in the shower. That was the famous thing we would do. And so he would have me like set it and play a tournament. And every time he would do something crazy like that, and all the players would be like, what are you doing? Like the one time he had me lift my right foot off the ground, and I said, well, how long am I going to hit it off right? He said, I want the whole round has to be with your right foot off the ground.
Like this.
And I shot 69.
I had on that like this, because she used to always have the old saggy right leg. So I made her play like this and just do this. And then she could cut it with her arms, and she just shot 69.
I know, I shot 69. And actually, did Brad and Justine, were you at that one tournament in Corning when you were playing the Nationwide? Did you go to that one?
No, I don't think so.
Because Gowie and those guys.
No, it was Painter, Gowie.
And Anthony Payne.
Yeah.
They all came because they had a week off. And Gary said, well, I've got to go watch Jan play. So they went, oh, we'll come too. So they would work with him as well, and then watch him play. And I shot 69 with my right foot off the ground. And so the craziest thrill was, I work with Gav now. And every day I send a swim to him.
Twice a day, some days.
And in fact, then he gives up and he just does it live on Zoom because he goes, no, you still don't get it. And
You're not passing the ball right.
No, I don't pass the ball enough. And I used to get so mad because Gaz would send me back, no, you're not passing the ball. And I'd be like, what do you mean? And Gavin would explain it because he understood the golf swing and I didn't understand. I just did whatever I was told. So when I lost it, I had no idea what to do. So I really learned a lot about the golf swing from Gav. Doing drills, he made me do last week, I had to do for a week, 100 of just setting it and hitting into the bag 100 times a day before I was allowed to hit a ball. So it's just, and it's a constant battle, but it makes golf so fantastic.
It's a battle.